Now broadcasting from the Next Gen Conservative Studio in sunny South Florida, bringing you the latest in politics, current events, and pop culture. This is the Whitfield Report with Sam Whitfield.
Well, hello there, folks, and welcome to the Monday edition of the show. Glad you could join us. As always, it's great to be with you. And before we get started with the show, ladies and gentlemen, I do want to just take a moment to thank everyone who tuned in for the 15th anniversary special on Saturday. There were 60 of you that watched it live on Rumble. And then I just checked the stats before hitting the record button. And at the time of this recording, there are over 460 views on the Rumble video, on the replay, in less than 40 hours. Just on that one video alone, plus the Kurt Doolittle interview has like 180 views. And then, you know, the podcast I did with both Max Sand on the economy and the Craig Mansfield interview that I did on the train derailments, those have also gotten multiple views in the hundreds as well. Point being, ladies and gentlemen, is I think we have finally started to get our mojo back in regards to this show. People have said that, or people said to me initially after I got banned off of YouTube, well, your show is done unless you want to make another YouTube channel, because no one's going to go to Odyssey or Rumble or any of these alternative platforms. They're too niche. No one's going to watch you. And yet we have greater visibility over on Rumble. And Saturday night's show, which granted was a special occasion, but even so, that was a landmark show, not only because it was the 15-year anniversary of when I started podcasting, but also because that is one of the most viewed, video podcasts that I've done total in my entire career. And it's only 2 days old, nearly 500 views in less than 2 days. It's really unbelievable when you think about it. And then the podcast, which just got uploaded to Spotify and Apple Podcasts like early this morning, that podcast is less than 24 hours old, and it already has something like 40 downloads and listens. So the momentum is huge, and all the naysayers out there who said that, once I lost my YouTube channel, the show is going to be done for. Well, we're not done yet. And not just that, but more people are seeing the video on Rumble than on YouTube. And these people aren't even subbed necessarily. We only have like 35 subscribers on Rumble. And yet we have more visibility on Rumble than with the 800 subscribers that we had on YouTube. So really quite amazing to, be able to share that with you. and I am truly humbled and honored to be able to do so. And I also want to take a moment to say, a big thank you to all of our guests who came on: Max, Shmuley, Apex Gamma, all of whom took time out of their Saturday evening to, come help celebrate my show. And a very special thank you to Genius Anus, who donated $30 worth of PlayStation, store gift credit to me. That was very generous. And then also to Mr. Vicious Vickers, the big bad coin merchant himself, who donated $90 to the show. And I was able to read that on air because I was using my phone as my webcam, as I usually do. And my PayPal account is tied to my phone, at least the notification part of it. So I was not able to see the donation that Mr. Vickers made, but I want to acknowledge it now. $90 really means a lot to me, sir. And if you are listening to this, thank you. Although more than that, the fact that you are a friend of the show means a lot more to me in and of itself than any single donation or monetary transaction. That's just an added bonus in my book. So, like I said, folks, it was a great show. The archive is up on Rumble, Odyssey, and it's also available on the video version of Spotify, and then the audio podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Amazon, wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you didn't have a chance to listen to, I highly recommend you do so. I did add chapter markers in, so the different segments of the show are indexed in case you don't want to listen to the whole 4-hour celebration. But it was a lot of fun to do that show, and I just really want to thank everyone who participated. So thank you. All right, now I didn't get a chance to cover this last week because it didn't happen until Friday. But I figured I would cover this for you today. So one of the latest news items, that's been talked a lot are these congressional hearings over TikTok, and the fact that TikTok is basically surveying, or they have surveillance. They're spying on American citizens through their app and data mining it. Not just that, but they are manipulating data to basically spread propaganda to the Americans and weaponize propaganda against us. So make no mistake, folks, we are now in a electronic Cold War with China, and I have a feeling that Cold War, if we're not careful, may escalate. Now, the CEO of TikTok actually went before Congress on Friday and, was basically forced to admit this under oath. And Sean Hannity covered this on Friday on his show. I'm not going to play the whole segment, but I will play you a clip of this because I do think it is relevant what this, guy is saying, admitting that TikTok is spying on American citizens. So this is Hannity covering the congressional hearings on TikTok. This was on Friday's show. Roll the clip.
what's happening right now is Biden's weakness on the world stage has never been more apparent, but Republican leaders, thankfully, are pushing back against our adversaries. Now, yesterday, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem signed a bill banning China and other, quote, evil foreign governments from state contracts. And today, TikTok CEO was grilled by lawmakers on Capitol Hill over concerns that the social media company is spying on Americans. Take a look.
Do you disagree with FBI Director Wray and NSA Director Nakasone when they said that the CCP could have the capability to manipulate data and send it to the United States? Do you disagree with their statement?
Their statement says could.
So do you disagree with that?
No, I don't disagree with that.
Okay.
Has ByteDance spied on American citizens?
I don't think the spying is the right way to describe it.
All right, so that is essentially, the two big takeaways from the hearing there. The CEO of TikTok basically admitted that TikTok is being used to spy on American citizens. And more than that, send, anti-American weaponized propaganda to our kids. And this isn't some Alex Jones conspiracy theory, ladies and gentlemen. This is on the record in front of Congress. The TikTok CEO is admitting doing this. And the reason why I bring this up, ladies and gentlemen, is there's not a whole lot to talk about in regards to this. But one thing that is notable is this is the first instance in quite a long time where both Republicans and Democrats in Congress are actually in agreement that TikTok is a threat to national security. I mean, plain as day, that's what is going on. They've basically admitted to this, and now there are bipartisan bills on the Senate floor to perhaps ban TikTok, from the U.S. Now, ironically, some of the libertarians out there, the ANCAP, free market people are basically saying that, Sam, this is bad because the government would basically be, outlawing TikTok from being able to participate in the free market of business, and this sets a dangerous precedent for the government to be able to regulate tech companies and interfere with business practices in general. And my response to this is basically that the free market argument does not apply here in regards to TikTok. And it doesn't apply, folks, because TikTok and its company ByteDance are essentially owned by the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, as are, all businesses essentially in China. The Chinese government has direct influence over all businesses in China, not just in the sense that they, give them money on occasion, but, how these businesses are run, what products they're going to sell, everything from the top on down. So, that's why it's so hard to get Huawei phones here in the U.S. too. Like, you barely ever see them because the U.S. government banned Huawei phones from being distributed here because of concerns, of serious legitimate concerns, that these smartphones are basically just Chinese smartware. And same with TikTok, right? Now, President Trump, like 2 years ago, was basically saying the same thing about TikTok in general. That TikTok was being used as a Chinese Communist Party propaganda arm to spread fear and propaganda amongst Americans, particularly, American youth who are susceptible to this type of indoctrination. And he was concerned about it. And, unfortunately, he didn't get much to do about it because he was caught in the midst of all these other witch trials and whatnot. But credit where credit is due. Joe Biden, despite all the things that I may despise about the current occupant of the White House, Joe Biden, President Biden, has seemed to recognize that China is a dangerous threat and is considering passing multiple bills, either banning or heavily regulating TikTok in the US. Now, do I actually think anything will come of Congress doing anything? In regards to TikTok? And honestly, folks, the answer to that is that I have no idea. It is honestly hard to tell, because given all the hearings that Congress has had over the past few years over Facebook and YouTube and Twitter and all of that regarding, censorship and social media behavior and all of that, right? Congress has said that they were going to, investigate further into Twitter's activity, right, and whatnot back in 2017, right? And yet they did nothing regarding the censorship issue on Twitter, and they've done nothing regarding Facebook or YouTube. It's actually seemed to cause more problems in some ways when the when the government grills Facebook, because Facebook in turn just makes their laws like more draconian and more, anti-free speech. So, and the only reason why Twitter is so good is because Elon stepped in and, basically made it as much of a free speech platform as you're going to get with it in reasonable doubt. And, but that was Elon Musk doing that once he bought Twitter. That was not, because the government made him do so or anything like that. He did it of his own volition, right? So Congress, when it comes to actually like stopping big tech issues, they're not that great about it, ladies and gentlemen. And so before anyone gets, like real excited, like, yeah, the CCP is gonna, get banned from the US because of TikTok, just hold your horses, because it may take a while, and at the end of the day, Congress might not even do anything about it. So that is one of those situations, folks, where we will, approach it from a take and see, from like a wait and see circumstance, and take things day by day. And, at some point we may have a guest on to discuss this issue, and, we'll be keeping an eye on it for you all. So that's that. I did want to cover that for you guys today, since that was a relevant news topic. And then the next topic at hand also has to deal with technology. This, in fact, has to do with the Internet Archive in a lawsuit that they lost against these big publishing companies. Now, some of you may have heard about this because it happened on Thursday, and I heard about it, but it didn't get much press coverage. It only got a little bit, and this has more to do also with like free speech and woke censorship and whatnot. But anyway, let's continue on. So, let me see here. All right, folks. So, headline from Reason magazine, or Reason.com rather. Internet Archive loses lawsuit over National Emergency Library. Will appeal. Plus, sensitivity readers rewrite Agatha Christie. A little free library battle, and much more. So this has to do with corporate censorship, right? And things going woke. So let's continue. Okay. As Americans coped with lockdowns and isolation in the early days of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Internet Archive, a platform devoted to preserving digital history, hit on a novel way to help people stay sane. The company temporarily lent out free digital copies of books, calling the service the National Emergency Library. The service operated from March 24th through mid-June 2020. The four biggest U.S. publishers, Hachette Book Group, HarperCollins, John Wiley & Sons, and Penguin Random House, sued, calling this massive copyright infringement. The company pointed to 127 books digitized and loaned out as part of the National Emergency Library, declaring that they owned the rights to them and had not granted the Internet Archive permission to lend them. The Internet Archive claimed fair use, a doctrine that allows unlicensed use of copyright works in certain circumstances, such as when it is being used as part of criticism, commentary, news reporting, or research purposes. On Friday, a federal court sided with the publishers. The Internet Archive's fair use defense rests on the notion that lawfully acquiring a copyrighted print book entitles the recipient to make an unauthorized copy and distribute it in place of the print book, so long as it does not simultaneously lend the print book, wrote Judge John C. Kotel of the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York in his opinion. But no case or legal principle supports that notion. Every authority points the other direction. We are thrilled by the decision in the Internet Archive Open Library lawsuit, as we have long argued scanning and lending books without permission or compensation is not fair use. It is theft, and it devalues the author's works, the Authors Guild tweeted. And, I'm going to come back to that, part here in just a sec, folks. But it is interesting. So the Internet Archive says it will appeal Kotel's decision, calling it a blow to all libraries in the communities we serve. Libraries are more than the customer service departments for corporate database products, Internet Archive founder Brewster Kahle said in a blog post. For democracy to survive for democracy to thrive at global scale, libraries must continue to sustain their historic role in society, owning, preserving, and lending books. And then here, this is a different article, but this secondary article here on Reason Magazine talks how HarperCollins has basically rewrote and made edits to the Agatha Christie book series, over quote unquote offensive language. So they have essentially rewritten the books and therefore censored the original works. Now, folks, the Internet Archive, for those of you who don't know, is exactly what it says at the beginning of the article. The Internet Archive basically allows for people to upload books, videos, documents, etc., for people to download and use and consume. It is essentially basically what it sounds like, an archive of content on the internet. So, for example, one thing that has been pretty apparent is all these book publishers have been rewriting books or editing the books from their original publication and altering them to be more content sensitive in this woke age, ladies and gentlemen, right? So, for example, I tweeted about this a month ago because the Ian Fleming estate basically caved to the woke progressives and decided to hire sensitivity readers to basically edit the James Bond books and edit the language for, more sensible and modern times, right? Now, you could argue, as I have, that altering the James Bond books in that way fundamentally alters the tone and therefore the overall story of the James Bond novels. They were written by Ian Fleming, who was a Navy intelligence officer who, much like James Bond, drank and smoked and was a womanizer. And yes, he did say some maybe racially tense thing, not necessarily in an insulting way, but this was World War II or post World War II, and the way people spoke was way different back then. And so a lot of the terminology that Ian Fleming and Agatha Christie, and all of these other groups, a lot of the terminology that they've used over the years is way different than what we use today. And they wrote their books in a certain time. And so for these new publishers to suddenly, just rewrite the books to suit modern day, sensibilities is a form of censorship. And so people have been uploading, copies of the original James Bond books to the Internet Archive. And, there have been other instances too where, most famously, George Lucas, he has not made the original theatrical releases available of Star Wars available digitally ever. He's only ever allowed for the special edition remastered editions to be distributed digitally. And so, hobbyist film archivists have basically done restorations of the original theatrical releases of the Star Wars films and put them out on Internet Archive. Now, one could argue that that is copyright infringement because it's Lucas's property and he didn't give permission to distribute that. But my argument would be, and this applies for a lot of things like, television B movies or made for television B movies or something like that, right? Lucas is not distributing the original theatrical films anymore, right? So it is up to the fans, to do so and to archive that material and to, preserve that more or less. And they're not stealing anything from Lucas by doing that because, Lucas is no longer making money on the theatrical versions, and neither is Disney. And neither are these fans that have done the remastered. They're not, making any money off of the, the edits and the remasters that they've done for the original theatrical versions. So, no one is really harming anyone, and it's not really damaging, anyone's work. Another example could be when Playboy magazine went out of print a few years ago. Fans started to upload, digital copies of, Playboy issues to the Internet Archive, and same principle applies. Playboy has not done anything with their, Hugh Hefner era material. In fact, they've tried to stay, kind of stave away from that and take into a different direction, a more woke direction. So it is up to the hobbyists and the collectors to archive that and preserve that for, people in the future who are interested in that. And it is up to, and that is what the Internet Archive has done, and other websites like it. So this whole notion of, the Internet Archive being bad or torrenting being bad in and of itself is kind of a misnomer, because torrenting itself isn't necessarily bad. It's just a method to, download files and whatnot. But piracy, which is directly like stealing profits from, companies and filmmakers when they could still stand to benefit from that material, that is disingenuous and that is, dangerous. But, one of the things that, Steve Jobs most notably recognized in the 2000s was piracy was happening, online because these media companies were not making their media digitally accessible, to their fans and to their consumers. So therefore, they had to go, to places like the Pirate Bay and the LimeWire, and Internet Archive back in the day, because these these companies were not, providing digital content to their, online customers. Now that has changed for the most part, but there are some materials out there and some movies that, either because the studio went out of, business, or because the current studios have lost rights. There are movies out there that are not available, through the distributor, digital or otherwise, nowadays on the internet. And so the Internet Archive is is a good place for these. And I even have a few of my old podcasts up on the Internet Archive, I think. So in this instance, I do side with the folks at the Internet Archive, and I do indeed think it's a very interesting subject. And yeah, U.S. copyright laws are just fucked in general, but that is a whole nother discussion to get into. So that'll do it for tonight's show for the most part. One thing that I do want to bring up that happened over the weekend is, kind of ending on a lighter note, is Kanye West apparently likes Jews again, because Jonah Hill, I guess Kanye watched 21 Jump Street again and saw Jonah Hill, and because Jonah Hill is Jewish and he made Kanye West laugh, Kanye West thinks that Jews are good again because they made him laugh, and Nick Fuentes is furious about it, I guess. Which is kind of weird that it was a comedy movie that, it took a comedy movie to get Kanye West to kind of reverse his, narrative on being an anti-Semite. But hey, whatever floats his boat, I guess. But anyway, folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in to the Monday show. And again, thank you all for tuning in to the Saturday show. It really meant a lot that everyone came out to, support me. And we will continue to put out great shows for you all. And I will see you on Wednesday for the live show. Until then, take care. God bless. And have a good day, folks, whenever you're listening to this in the past, present, future hour.
Thanks for listening to The Whitfield Report on the NGC Network. Please visit Sam's website at www.thesamwhitfield.com and support Sam on Patreon at patreon.com/Whitfield Report. Until next time, God bless, God save this great nation, and God, freedom, legacy, in that order.